Sleigh bells ring, are you listening? In the lane, snow is glistening, a beautiful sight. We're happy tonight, walking in a winter wonderland. Gone away is the bluebird, here to stay is the new bird. He sings a love song as we go along, walking in a winter wonderland. In the meadow we can build a snowman, then pretend that he is Parson Brown. He'll say, are you married? We'll say, no, man. But you can do the job while you're in town. Later on, we'll conspire as we dream by the fire to face unafraid the plans that we've made, walking in a winter wonderland. Snowman, then pretend that he's a circus clown. We'll have lots of fun with Mr. Snowman until the other kitties knock him down. When it snows, ain't it thrilling? Though your nose gets a chillin', we'll finally can play the Eskimo way, walking in a winter wonderland, walking in a winter wonderland, walking in a winter wonderland.
Rhoda Weaver, walking in a wonderland, this beautiful Christmas Eve service. And our amazing Unity Band, Dave, Richard, Joel, and Pete, and Connie with us this morning on cello. Would you show them your love? Thank you. So you are the morning people who did not go out of town or decided to, or maybe you're from out of town and you're visiting. And how many of you are also planning to come to the evening service tonight? Wow, wonderful, wonderful. Well, so glad to have you here this morning. Every Sunday we begin our time together in the awareness of who we are as an expression of all that is, and that we can never be disconnected, but we can think we are or think ourselves apart. And so we begin in this awareness of our connectedness and our oneness. Would you please join me? There is only one presence and power active in the universe and in my life, God the good, omnipotence. And then our mission here together. We are an inclusive, inspiring, spiritual community, embracing our divinity and joyfully evolving together. With that, I invite you to join in an opening prayer. As we turn our awareness within this morning, we do so in the spirit of gratitude, of expectancy. This is a special season in that it gathers many people together around a common idea, coming together to celebrate. And today we do this very thing. We come together to celebrate. But we come together to celebrate, most importantly, the truth of who each and every one of us are. That we are the image and likeness of all that is. And we celebrate that we have the capacity to recognize that in each other. And that there's an ever-growing recognition of this truth within our own self. This recognition of what we may call the Christ, the embodiment of pure spirit. And for this day to truly celebrate, we give thanks and open our heart and our mind and our entire being to the gifts that are here for us to receive that we may be blessed, that we may be a blessing. And for this most sacred and special time together, we are truly grateful. Thank you, God, and so it is. Amen. I invite you to stand as you're able and join in this opening holiday song that says, "Oh, come, O ye faithful." Oh, come, O ye faithful, joyful and triumphant. Oh, come ye to Bethlehem. Come and behold him, born the King of angels. Oh, come, let us adore. Oh, come, let us adore. Oh, come, let us adore Him, Christ the Lord. Sing, choirs of angels. Sing, all ye citizens of heaven and earth. Glory to God, glory in the highest. Oh, come, let us adore Him. Oh, come, let us adore Him. Oh, come, let us adore Him, Christ the Lord. Oh, Lord, we greet Thee on this happy morning. Oh, Christ, forevermore Thy name we adore. Word of the Father, now is here appeared. Sing it out. You sound like a beautiful choir. Take an opportunity to turn and greet those that... Let me make just one announcement first. This is the first Christmas miracle. Many of you know Reverend Andy Carlson, one of our associate ministers, recently had a stroke. He is healing with leaps and bounds, so much so that he is here today. Yeah. Yeah. So here's part 2 of that announcement. He's still in the midst of his rehabilitation, doing incredibly well. The doctor said, you can come out today, but here's the disclaimer. Don't let people slobber on you. So at Unity, we love to hug and slobber on him. I said, Andy, you need a hula hoop to put around you to just say hey. So turn and welcome your neighbors with a warm handshake this morning, or that hello. Silver bells. Because it's Christmas time and we get to sing these songs together. Lift your voice. Silver bells, silver bells, it's Christmas time. children laughing, people passing, meeting smile after smile, and on every street corner you'll hear, sing it out, silver bells, silver bells, silver bells, silver bells, it's Christmas time in the city. Ring-a-ling, hear them ring. Soon it will be Christmas Day. Play it, Richard. Play it, Dave. String of street lights, even spotlights, blinking bright red and green, as the shoppers rush home with their treasures. Hear the snow crunch, see the kids run. This is Santa's big day, and above all this hustle, you'll hear silver bells, silver bells, silver bells, it's Christmas time in the city. Ring-a-ling, ding-a-ling, soon it will be Christmas Day. That last line. Soon it will be Christmas Day. You sound beautiful. You may be seated. Thank you so much. Wow. And once again, you know, it just would not be the same a cappella. So we thank this amazing band. Thank you so much for this incredible music. Soon it will be Christmas Day. How many little ones do we have in the house right now? I should have known in Unity I'd get a lot of hands like that. Savannah, our youth ed director, is going to assemble over by the door. And so if we have some little ones with us this morning, we're going to invite you to head over for the nurseries that may be in the nursery age children that may be in the back, for the ones that are heading over, for the older youth, any of those that are already in the back area. Let us extend our blessing and appreciation to them this morning. We love you. We bless you. We appreciate you. And we behold the divinity in you. Have a wonderful Sunday school experience this morning. We'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge anyone that may be here for the first time today. If it's your first time, would you raise your hand and let us acknowledge your presence? And just hold your hand up for just a moment. Our ushers and greeters would like to have an opportunity to give you a connections card. We invite you to stop by outside of our bookstore. We have packets of information that give you a little more information about the church. There's some complimentary CDs or DVDs of a previous service. You're welcome to take one of those. But most importantly, we want to thank you for being here. I want to give a shout out. Marty, would you please stand? When I first started in ministry, you know, and you think you know what you're doing. You know, how many of you go to college and then you actually start the job and you're like, why didn't they teach me about what I'm really going to be doing? Marty Stemmerman was the church office administrator in my first church in Lawrence, Kansas. And she has family. Her sons are in Charlotte, and she drove up today just to surprise and be with us. She's also an amazing shaman who studies directly, personal friends with Sandra Ingram, and just an incredible, incredible, wonderful individual. So to Marty, I want to say thank you for coming out, and to each and every one of you, let us extend this special blessing to you today that says, we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the divinity in you. Thank you so much, each and every one of you, for coming out today for this very special occasion. I'm going to invite a couple of our associate ministers to come up, Reverend Laura Collins and Reverend Morgan Barclay. They're going to share a reading with you this morning in the spirit of Christmas. And today we light, this is the Advent season where we look at 4 qualities of being that are aspects of who we are as a spiritual being, that they're not dependent on external circumstances, but they're with us as a part of our nature. The first week we lit the candle for hope, and then peace, and then love. And today we light the 4th candle. Who knows what the 4th one is? Joy, yeah. In the spirit of joy. Would you please welcome Reverends Laura and Morgan.
Good morning and Merry Christmas. If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal.
If I decorate my house perfectly with plaid bows, strands of twinkling lights, and shiny balls, but do not show love to my family, I'm just another decorator.
If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have the faith that can move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing.
If I slave away in the kitchen, baking dozens of Christmas cookies, preparing gourmet meals, and arranging a beautifully adorned table at mealtime, but do not show love to my family, I'm just another cook.
If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I am nothing.
If I work at the soup kitchen, carol in the nursing home, and give all that I have to charity, but do not show love to my family, it profits me nothing. If I trim the spruce with shimmering angels and crocheted snowflakes, attend a myriad of holiday parties, and sing in the choir's cantata, but do not focus on the spirit of Christmas, I have missed the point.
Love is patient. Love is kind. Love does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always preserves.
Love stops the cooking to hug the child. Love sets aside the decorating to kiss the spouse. Love is kind, though harried and tired. Love doesn't envy another's home that has coordinated Christmas china and table linens. Love doesn't yell at the kids to get out of the way. Love doesn't give only to those who are able to give in return, but rejoices in giving to those who can't. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things.
Love never fails.
Video games will break, pearl necklaces will be lost, golf clubs will rust, but giving the gift of love will endure. Love never fails.
say was to certain poor shepherds in fields where they lay, in fields where they lay, keeping their sheep on a cold winter's night that was so deep. Noel, 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 born is the King of Israel. They looked and saw a star shining in the east beyond them far, and to the earth it gave great light, and so it continued both day and night. Noel, 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 born is the King of Israel. And by the light of that same star, 3 wise men came from the country afar to see, for a king was their intent, and to follow the star wherever it went. Noel, 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 born is the King of Israel. This star drew nigh to the northeast, over Bethlehem it took its rest, and there it did stop and stay, right over the place where Jesus lay. Noel, 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 born is the King of Israel.
Wow. Is there any other way to say that when Rhoda Weaver sings? Rhoda, thank you so much for blessing us today. And again, this Unity Band, who will be back in a few minutes, thank you to each and every one of them. Yeah. You know, Christmas is, in many ways, Christmas is about the gift. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And to get started, I'm going to ask you to stand. And to give and receive a gift, and it goes like this, just to turn to one simple person and say, I appreciate the gift of your presence. And then let them say that back to you. I appreciate the gift of your presence. I appreciate the gift of your presence. The gift of your presence. Thank you. Slobbering is optional. And then you may be seated. I appreciate the gift of your presence. That's the greatest gift that we have, and the greatest gift that we can receive is to really the awareness of who we are in spirit and in truth. So today is Christmas Eve. Anybody have any shopping left and you want to confess? All right, you in the sound booth, I won't mention you raised your hand. 4 weeks ago, we began a series that it's about the Advent. The Latin word, the root of the word Advent is arrival. And so it's building up a sense of expectation about the arrival of what we would call in unity Christ awareness. In Hinduism, they may call it the Atman or the divine spark. It is about knowing that we are the light of the world, as Jesus and other master teachers said, and it's really allowing the birth of that to take place in our awareness, because it's already there in spirit. And so what's being born is, it's not something that doesn't already exist. It's about it existing in our awareness. It's growing in awareness. And we light these candles to represent, the first week was hope, and then peace, and then love, and today joy. To remind us that these are natural byproducts of who we are as a spirit being expressing as human form. And that they don't depend on external conditions. Now, that's not to say that external conditions don't matter and can't upset us and all of those things, because they absolutely do. But absolutely what they do is they serve to open us to the part of us that is bigger than any of that. So that this presence of hope and joy and peace and love can be with us. It's in the midst of whatever it is that we're going through. And so we're going to talk about that spirit of joy some today. One of the things that brings me joy is to know that other churches have bloopers as well. Because I've certainly had enough of my own, but here are 4 things that I found interesting that were printed in church bulletins. The first one says, for the holidays, we will need extra 3-year-old nursery workers. I would like to see that nursery. Instead of the traditional Christmas cantata this year, we will have a non-traditional Sinspiration. Everyone invited for a good time. Tonight we have our candlelight service, so you'll appreciate this. For our candlelight service, the pastor will light his candle from the altar candles. The ushers will light their candles from the pastor's candle. The ushers will then turn and light each worshiper in the first pew. And then, this church secretary wrote in, these all were in Reader's Digest. She said, we have a food program in our church for those in need, which we call the pastor's pantry. She said, unfortunately, when I put the announcement in the bulletin, it said, we hope you will consider giving to the pastor's panty fund so that no one will have to go without. In the spirit of joy of Christmas. So, you know, children are a huge part of Christmas. And young children naturally have love and hope and joy and peace. Unless a young child has been violated and in some way lost that innocence, young children will always, you see, they're not yet self-conscious. They're just one with the cosmos. And so they live with this sense of curiosity and awe and playfulness. When I first moved to this area, I stayed in a townhome for the first year, and the adjoining townhome was a single mom with a little girl. And so that first Christmas, it was just a sheer delight, because I have a little teeny dog, and when I would take my little dog for a walk, she loved the little dog, so she'd put on her coat and come out with me. And she made it her job to tell me as many Christmas jokes as possible. I don't know if she knew I was a minister and thought I needed some help or what, but she was always telling me these little things. She would say things like, how do you scare a snowman? And I'd say, I don't know, how do you scare a snowman? And she'd say, with a hairdryer. And she'd just fall out on the ground. And she'd say, where do you find your reindeer? I don't know. Where do you find your reindeer? Wherever you left them. And it just really reminded me of that preciousness. You know, I noticed in our family, when the little kids now have gotten older, that the conversations get a little drier and a little duller. that there's something about young kids. And Christmas is meant to ignite that in all of us, to really awaken us back into that sense of wonder and awe. Because what is joy? Meister Eckhart said, Teilhard de Chardin said, that joy is the infallible sign of the presence of God. Isn't that beautiful? The unmistakable sign of the presence of God is when you see true joy. If you've ever met people like the Dalai Lama, they're just so joyful, almost like a child energy. And it's not in an ignorant type of way, but it's just in a truly joy of living type of way. The scripture says, the joy of the Lord is my strength. Or you can turn that around to say, my strength is the joy of the Lord, or of knowing from where I come. Joy is really evidence of a light-hearted spirit. It's having the spirit of life. We use terms like the joy of living, because joy is really evidence of being alive with the vibrancy of life. And joy is unlike happiness. You see, happiness and sadness are definitely both experiences, but joy is bigger than either of those. Because you can be sad, you can be upset, you can be angry, and still have this sense of deep abiding joy. I've counseled many people who have lost people, or for whatever reason were going through the grief process. And in the midst of the grief process, there's just such, especially if you lose a close loved one, your world dies in many ways. And there's the loss of like death in your life because of the loved one that you lost. And so you naturally go through that gut-wrenching loss of life. But inevitably, after a period of time, I've had many people tell me this. They say, I'm still so sad, but I'm starting to catch myself feeling happy, and I feel guilty about it. And what I tell them is, that's joy. That's your natural lifeline of joy, just lifting you and reminding you that, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, that even in the midst of this, that there's a presence of love and peace and joy and hope, that if we can get still, if you get still, then it's like all the stuff in the globe settles. You can touch that sense of deep, abiding joy. And so that presence of joy is always available for each and every one of us. And it comes from really knowing and understanding who we are. In Unity and New Thought, we look at the Christmas story as being about two things. We certainly look at the life of the individual Jesus, which is quite, most of the time, the centerpiece of the traditional Christmas story. So it's about a babe who was born with a level of consciousness and awareness that helped awaken people to something. But he never said, I'm exclusive and I'm the only one that's got this thing. His whole life was about the things I can do, you shall do, and even greater. I and the Father am one. I am the creator of one, and may you know that. His very last prayer was, Creator, Father, Mother, God, let them know that they too are one with all that is. And so we look at that individual Jesus as a person who was an exceptional, awakened, Christed being. But the word Christ is a title that means anointed one. And so we also, at Unity, really celebrate the Christ, that the Christ is the core, the foundation of who you are in spirit. There's some scriptures and quotes that I think help explain this a little bit. This comes from Colossians, and it says, Christ is the visible image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation. It's the pattern, a seed. And this is the secret. Christ lives in you. This gives you assurance of sharing this glory. The next one, Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, said it this way: for each of us has within him or her the Christ, just as Jesus did. We must look within to recognize and actualize our sonship, which is the divine origin and birth, just as Jesus did. And so what we can say about that is that the significance of the Christ is what we would call is to experience God within, God in us. Emmanuel means God in us, God in me, God in you. That every soul is meant to achieve Christ consciousness, the state of Atman, whatever you want to call it. And our ultimate purpose on earth is to manifest this Christ in you. And so when you realize this, Christmas is really a time to celebrate this possibility that is always existing within us. You know, it's just like, I love the analogy of an acorn. You look at an acorn and compare it to an oak tree and cannot imagine how in the world could this little seed, how could this little teeny packet of possibility have within it the blueprint to become this giant oak tree. And what does it take? It simply takes for the conditions to become right. Because if it's in the soil and it gets the rain, the potential is going to be unleashed. It doesn't have to try to be an oak tree. It just simply releases its potentiality. So it is with us. But in the human life, we would be akin to, you know, acorns don't ever fight and say, well, I'm a prettier acorn than you are. I got a shinier acorn than you do. In the human experience, so often we compete at the level of the acorn, all the while forgetting we have within us the mighty oak, what we would call the Christ potential. And so Christmas is about this. It's about this remembering and this celebrating to truly open to the gift. To help us really understand this today, I happen to have a little gift. You know, sometimes the messages for certain things of, you know, how do we really embrace, how do we accept this gift? Sometimes they're so obvious in ways around us that we tend to miss them. And I find it interesting that if you just look at how we receive packages, there's a lot of spiritual instruction if you're willing to go there. The first really important thing is that it says to you, wherever you are. And the first thing to know about this is that when it comes to your spiritual capabilities, they're for you. You don't have to worry about, well, if Rhoda got all that talent singing, I may as well not even try. If Richard can play the piano like that, I probably should never even take a lesson. You know, I hope you don't think like that, because just because one person has the potential, just because Jesus or the Buddha or one person actualized it, we're meant to actualize it as well. So to know that this gift is for you and for you and for you, wherever you are. Wherever you are. It doesn't matter if you're on the mountaintop or in the valley, it's for you wherever you are. Now, the other important thing to really remember is there is something that says this side up. Have you ever had your life upside down? It's not so fun when it's upside down, but this side up. Connie, I'm going to move your stool, so I hope that you can find it your way back to center point. So this side up. The gift of this side up, in order for this side to be up, there has to be a constant foundation. And really accepting and actualizing the gift of our spiritual potential requires us to be anchored in a spiritual foundation. Have you ever noticed that when the foundation is unstable, the whole house is unstable? And that nobody can create your foundation for you. You see, we inherit foundations, just like Ram Dass says, we all inherit our somebody training. You inherit a foundation that you're born with, but it's yours in reality, and so we really have to, throughout our life, cultivate our own foundation, because nobody else can give it to us and nobody can take it away. But there's no substitute for a foundation. A number of years ago, I was a sales and marketing rep for a children's toy company. And I also had young nieces and nephews at the time, so I was a hip, happening aunt. Because I got to go to the International Toy Fair in New York City. I ran a showroom in New York, and so if any of you know kind of how that works, you do these big shows, and then you have lots of the product left over that you can take home. So I gathered stuff, and boy, when Christmas came around, I just lavished my nieces and nephews. They just thought that was, you know, the best, that their aunt had all these things, and I loved to spoil them and do that. And so one particular Christmas, I wanted to keep it simple, and I came home, and I had this really nice package it was a gingerbread kit, where we were going to make a gingerbread house. And the minute I got there with my young niece and nephew, and my other nephew he was probably about 10 at the time, the oldest one, he was a little bit too cool to do that, so he kind of stood over to the side. But my mom and sister left immediately so they could escape the kids. And so here Aunt Darlene we're making this gingerbread house. So I unpackage it, and there's all of this food. And the kids both said, "Can we eat a piece?" And I said, "Sure." So my niece picks up this little gummy thing, and my nephew picks up the biggest piece there was and begins to eat it. My older nephew says, "Aunt Darlene, he's eating the foundation." I said, "Oh, don't worry. Nana's got plenty of stuff in the pantry. We'll find something else." He said, "That's not going to work very well." I said, "Oh, you're just being poo-poo." So I rounded up some graham crackers or something and put them all together, and we start trying to put this thing together, and lo and behold, the house kept sliding apart. It just kept, and it was a mess. It was just this gummy, gooey, collapsed on itself. It did not at all resemble a house. Now, we had a really good time, but my older nephew stood there and quite proud said, "Pretending you have a foundation is not the same thing as really having one, Aunt Darlene. Things will come apart." That kid's in the real estate, the building industry today. He had it, but pretending you have a foundation is not the same as really having it. Things will come apart. The message of this side up is you can't pretend that you got a foundation if you don't, because it's going to crack. Things are going to come apart. And so receiving the gift and really building upon the gift requires us to start with a spiritual foundation. And the spiritual foundation is as simple and yet as profound as knowing that I am spirit. I am an expression of all that is. All that I am is an expression of all that is. And that even though I live and move and breathe and in this world, there's so much more to me than meets the eye. Can you see how that everything begins to shift when you begin to open up to that awareness? In this book, The Christmas Letters by Joel Goldsmith, some of you probably know Joel Goldsmith. He was a great New Thought writer. He is well known for a book titled The Infinite Way that he wrote back, I think, in the 40s. And he had a group of students, and every year he wrote a lesson every month. And every December, he wrote a Christmas letter or a Christmas lesson. And so they compiled all of his years of Christmas letters into a book this year. And it's very good. And what he writes in this, a couple of things that he shares. He shares from Scripture, "The Son of God dwells in me. The life and Spirit of God dwells in me. The spiritual presence and power of God dwell in me. And that presence has come that I might have life, and that I might have life more abundantly." You see, that's building your spiritual foundation. He says, when we are one with the spiritual foundation of our being, we are one with the spiritual essence of all that exists, all that is and all that exists everywhere on the face of the globe and beyond. It's because spirit is the essence, the substance, the law behind all creation everywhere. And we become one with it only when we become one with our own center and our own foundation, which is what he calls the risen Christ, the awareness of Christ within us. As we lift up Christ within our awareness, we remove it from time and space, and we realize it as an activity of our consciousness, a substance, a law, the Spirit of God within us. And we are one with all that is. And it's only in this way, he writes, that the kingdom of heaven truly comes to earth, because we're allowing that Spirit to be birthed and to live throughout us. And it all begins by having that foundation. Jesus said in John, "For this reason I was sent." That really struck me. He never said I was born. He said I was sent. Can you imagine how different your life would be if you said, well, for this reason I was sent. I was sent here to know who I am in spirit and to let my life shine. There's an automatic purpose and meaning that goes with that. So the first one is to just remember this side up. It's about having a foundation. The second message is handle with care. You've seen that one before? Handle with care. Each of us have within us this light that when properly nurtured will shine and illuminate, but it takes some handling with care. And sometimes we forget that it's in the ordinary aspects of our life where this happens. A couple of weeks ago, I was in a store, and there were two clerks. I was in this line, and someone came up over here, and the clerk said, "Can I help you?" And the lady said, "I need a chia pet, one of the unusual ones." Well, I thought by very definition, chia pets were unusual. And so I'm really trying to go slow now and listen to this conversation. I need a chia pet, one of the really unusual ones. Remember those infamous terracotta figurines where you water them and chia seeds grow and there's this crazy looking fur and hair? And she says, "Well, I need an unusual one." The clerk seemed a bit baffled too, but she directed her to an aisle, and so I quickly text my niece and nephew and say, "Are chia pets back?" To which they said, "Where are you and are you okay?" I said, "Never mind, I'll explain later." Are chia pets back? But saying, "I want a chia pet and I want an unusual one" is like going to a pet store and saying, "I want a unicorn and I want an unusual one." They're all unusual. But I saw it sort of symptomatic of how in our world we love the latest and greatest, the unusual, the new and improved, the special. And it's not that there's anything wrong with that, but so often there's so much focus on that we lose sight of what we may call the ordinary. And that it's in the ordinary that we find the extraordinary. You see, according to the stories, the baby Jesus was born in an ordinary space, not any particular inn. And the story says there was no room in the inn, but do you not think if a virgin birth could be part of the story, that a vacancy could also be part of the story? That could have been manifested if that was needed. But there's a reason for that. It was in an ordinary place that the formless dimension abides in this ordinary form. And so often we forget that there's another dimension that is housed in this body. And so to handle with care means that we're taking care of our spirit. We're slowing down, we're caring and honoring that within one another as well. A person I was talking to this week said, "I had a really unusual dream." And they said, I think I kind of know what it means, but can I run it by you and you give me your feedback?" And I said, "Sure." And they said, "Well, in my dream," they said, "I have a dog, and in my dream, my dog got away, and I saw it kind of go down like in this just thing, and it disappeared, and I was running around frantically looking for my dog. And I kept looking and looking, and finally I stopped and I asked if someone knew. I told them where it went in and if they could tell me, and the person was able to help and said, "Well, yeah, that hole leads over there. Maybe you should check over there." And so they said, I went over, and sure enough, I found my dog. And the minute I saw my dog, I noticed, wow, my dog was skinny and really looked all, ratty looking. And I thought, did that just happen, or have I not been paying attention? And so they said, I picked up my dog, and I was heading out and thinking, I need to feed my dog. And then I looked at my watch, and I was torn about where I needed to be. And then I woke up. They said, do you know what that might mean? I thought, well, I'm not a Jungian analyst, but I'll give it a shot. This is what I would think, that, you've lost sight of something very precious. And so you're looking for it frantically, and then decide to stop and ask for help. When you ask for help, help is provided. You find that precious thing you've been looking for, and then you realize, oh my gosh, it's malnourished, it's unkept. And yet at that very moment, you're torn about your priorities. And the person said, oh yeah. Can any of you relate? Of just that feeling of sometimes the most precious things in our life, we don't take time for those things. And when it comes to our own spirit as well, that we're moving so fast and things are going so fast that it's to handle with care, who we are, to handle all of these things with care. Thomas More writes in a beautiful book titled Care of the Soul, a guide for cultivating depth and sacredness in everyday life. He writes, spirituality is seeded, germinates, and sprouts and blossoms in the mundane. It is to be found and nurtured in the smallest of daily activities. To the soul, the most minute detail and the most ordinary activities carried out with mindfulness and art have an effect far beyond their apparent significance. The Gospel of Thomas says, recognize what is before your eyes, and what is hidden to you will be revealed. To handle with care. This eve of Christmas, is there something your soul is calling you to handle with care? A little bit more care. The Dalai Lama, when someone asked him, what surprised you most about humanity? He said, people. He said, people. Because people sacrifice their health in order to make money. Then they sacrifice their money in order to recuperate their health. And then they're so anxious about the future that they don't enjoy the present. And the result is that they do not live in the present or the future. The people live as if they're never going to die, and then die having never really lived. Isn't that true? To really take time and to nurture, to handle with care. So it's addressed to you. There's a foundation this side up. Handle with care. And then the fourth thing that you will often see is protect from the elements. Interestingly enough, most of the time this one has that symbol, a symbol of an umbrella, when it says protect from the elements. And to me, protect from the elements, when we're talking about receiving and nurturing the gift of who we really are, is to notice what dampens your spirit. In particular, when it comes to joy, to notice what drains your spirit, what dampens your spirit, what denies your spirit. Those are the things that when we notice that happening, it's time to backtrack and go back and handle with care, to go back to a level of our foundation. Eleanor Roosevelt said, all the water in the world cannot drown you unless it gets inside of you. We take in things that we shouldn't. We take on things that aren't ours to take on. No matter what the problem, the situation, the history, or whatever the difficulty is around you, let it be around you. Let it be in the circumstance. It's around you, but it's not meant to be inside of your and control your internal weather or state of being. To realize that to protect ourselves from the elements is to really notice what it is that dampens our spirit and what drains us. What causes you to feel like you're on purpose, and then where are those times you feel insignificant and turn your own light down? You know, I find more people doing that, and I think that's why the scripture said, don't put a bushel over your lamp. A lot of people, a lot of times we tend to play small. Have you ever dialed your light back and knew that? You ever withheld something that you knew was yours to share in those particular times? And sometimes it's because we're afraid, but sometimes it's because we don't realize the significance of who we are. In the gospel stories of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, Matthew and Luke both have stories. They're different, but they both have stories of Jesus and the birth stories of Jesus. One's from the perspective of Mary, one's from the perspective of Joseph. We'll talk a little bit more about that tonight. But then in the Gospels of Mark and John, there are no baby Jesus stories, or there's no baby Jesus reference. Jesus comes on the scene as a grown person. In the Gospel of John, Richard, would you give me that song? It says, the next day Jesus wanted to go to the country of Galilee. He found Philip and said to him, follow me. Philip was from the town of Bethsaida. Andrew and Peter were also from that town. Philip then found Nathanael and said, "We have found the one Moses wrote about in the law. He is the one the prophets wrote about. He is Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph." Now see, this is to the audience at the time, this is nothing special. This is Yeshua ben Joseph. This is Yeshua, who we call Jesus, son of Joseph. This is just somebody's son from Nazareth. Nathanael says, "Can anything good come out of Nazareth?" All of a sudden, any potential credentials just went down the drain. That's like saying, the prophet is here and he came from Podunk, Idaho. People would be like, can anything good come out of, fill in the blank? And it doesn't even mean as much to us as it did to that time, because your lineage, everybody came from somewhere, and where you came from was everything. So this is very significant when we realize someone says, can anything good come out of Nazareth? Nazareth is not mentioned in the Old Testament. Nazareth is not referenced in the Jewish Talmud. People there knew if you're from Nazareth, you were a laborer. You grew olives, lentils, or grapes, or you were somehow just a laborer. And most people struggle with some feeling of insignificance. Theodore Roosevelt said, "Comparison is the thief of joy." And it's those types of things that dampen our spirit. And so this one that says protect from the elements is to pay attention to what dampens your spirit. What causes you to dial it back? What causes you to feel like there's a sort of a denial of spirit? And without judging it, but bringing that loving awareness. And from that loving place to go back to the next step and to say, okay, how do I need to care for myself? What is it that I need to do here? If anything would rob me of my joy. Francis Folks wrote in a book titled Effectual Prayer, "The world celebrates your birth, O little babe of Bethlehem. I celebrate the birth of Christ in my soul. I commemorate the day when in my consciousness I received the meaning of your coming, when I felt my heart respond in answer to your call of love. From one Christmas to the other, I seek to incorporate more of your gentle love and compassion and acceptance. I seek to bring these things into the world. I seek to grow as you did, that I may become one with the I am greatness, the Christ power in me that I may realize is the same Christ power that was in Jesus. I receive the rich spiritual gifts of my soul today and every day, celebrating the true spirit of Christmas." Each of us have this gift specifically for us. This side up means you have a spiritual foundation. Handle with care. Take care in your everyday, whatever it is we're doing, to care for this beautiful dimension of who we are and honoring it in one another. Protect it from the elements. Notice what dampens your spirit. And last but not least, repeat as necessary. Repeat as necessary. I breathe in. I breathe out. I take in. I give out. I let love. I let go. I release. And I know. Sing it out. I breathe in. invite you to close your eyes and to notice as you breathe in, without any special effort, to notice I breathe in and I breathe out. And that means I take in life and I give out. I let life flow through me. And then I allow. The truth of my being rise up from the inside out. I choose to remember all that I am as an expression of all that is. I allow it to rise up naturally within me. I breathe in. I breathe out. And if it is true, if a natural byproduct of who I am as an expression of all that is, if love is my true nature, if hope and peace and joy are aspects of my spiritual nature, then in this place called stillness, in this place called the silence, the emptiness, there must come a time when this awareness dawns on me, when it begins to be born from the inside out, a truth. A truth that is born of experience, a felt sense of knowing. I make space in the inn of my heart and my mind for this awareness. I bring this awareness with me wherever I am, wherever I go. And I allow it to just become true from the inside out. So I rest for a moment in this silence.
Thank you so much, Connie and Richard, for that beautiful rendition of O Night Divine, O Holy Night. And thank you, Darlene, for reminding us to handle with care the joyous foundation that we feel here at this Christmas time. As we let all of that sink in, we remember that we do breathe in, breathe out, receive these gifts of Christmas, and give back to the world from that place of having generously received. And so I'd invite our ushers to get ready to receive our gifts as we share together this blessing. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, all that I receive, and all that I am. I am now in perfect balance and flow with the universal tide in and receiving. Thank you, God, and so it is.
Y'all can clap along. Think of your fellow man, lend him a helping hand, put a little love in your heart. You see it's getting late, oh please don't hesitate, put a little love in your heart. And the world will be a better place, and the world will be a better place for you and me, you just wait and see. Another day goes by and still the children cry, put a little love in your heart. You want the world to know we won't let hatred grow, put a little love in your heart. And the world will be a better place, and the world will be a better place for you and me, you just wait and see, wait and see. Take a good look around, and if you're looking down, put a little love in your heart. I hope when you decide, kindness will be your guide, put a little love in your heart. And the world will be a better place, and the world will be a better place for you and me. You just wait and see. Put a little love in your heart, put a little love
Thank you, Rhoda. Thank you, band. Thank you, congregation. Woo. Let's bless this offering that's been made now. Holy, loving Spirit of Christ in us, with us, and around us, we thank you for the love that has been put in our hearts. We thank you for the love that grows in our hearts, not just a little bit, but a lot. And from that place of love growing in us, we offer back these gifts, that this community may continue to be a place where love grows and love goes out into the community, beyond these walls, so that all may know what a strong foundation they have. Thank you, God, and so it is. We have a few announcements before we sing our final song.